Hello, and welcome to Sense of Responsibility. I'm Alec Lindenauer, a certified financial planning professional, husband, and chief allowance officer to 2 daughters. I'm also the creator of the Sense of Responsibility tools and how-to instruction parents need to raise their children into financially literate, money-savvy adults, even if they don't know much about finance themselves.
I'm Julie France, a chef entrepreneur at heart, wife, and mother of 2 middle school children. I also curate the Sense of Responsibility community so parents have a forum to ask questions, share success stories, and discuss their journeys. As a financial newbie myself, I'm also cultivating our group support system to help carve out my own family's path toward financial literacy. Hi, Alec. How are you today? Nice to see you back to talk about kids and money.
Nice to see you again, and I still have my cold, Julie.
Oh, no. I'm so sorry. Seems like everybody does. You're not alone.
That's true. It is going around. But I'm
Tis the
excited to
season.
talk today because I know you're going to tell me all about Cassidy.
We love talking about Cassidy and her evolution in the world of money, don't we?
Exactly. Yes, tell me. You're a spender.
Yes. Well, it's been a fun process. It wasn't always fun. There were some months in there that
She is a teenage girl.
Yes. It ended in a fight or I'm never doing this again or, but we've come a long way. And I think, it all goes back to that consistency, always staying true to your why and looking at the long term. So, with Cassidy, she's a spender. She's really into clothes and fashion of all sorts, accessories. She likes expensive shoes. She loves expensive brands. She loves cosmetics. Oh my, she's into this line right now. Sephora, Ulta. The line she's into right now is called Sol de Janeiro, and apparently it's all natural. Does smell good, but they have like $25 shampoo and $15 or $20 deodorant. I'm like, no, I'm not paying for that. Yeah, no. I will get you. There's like,
it must smell really good.
It does smell good. There are certain things at Target that she likes that are a little on the pricier side, but I can do it. But no, that is a want. That is not a need. What my point is, she is a lover of the finer things. She never thinks that she has enough money. The allowance that I give her, it's like, how could you expect me to live life on this, Mom?
Let's refresh everyone's memory. You're giving her how much?
So she's 12 now. So I give her 12 a week, but then we do it by the month. And then she does have some money in her investment bucket. So she makes money on that money, 10% on top of whatever she has in her investment bucket. And then she does make other money here or there. She's had a few businesses. Of course, she had her bracelet making business. She doesn't do jewelry anymore. She dabbled in walking dogs. That was short-lived.
So she's clearing 80 to 110 in a given month, depending on how much work she puts in.
Well, she hasn't been doing any of that.
Okay.
No, that's what I was saying. Her businesses have long gone. She's really busy with school and cheer. So now when she needs money, she either asks me for extra work around the house or she sells clothes. So she'll get a big bag and she'll take it to it's a secondhand store, but they have, good brands. They only sell things like Lululemon and Urban Outfitters and whatnot. So anyway, she's a hustler. She knows how to make money when she needs money, but she also has a very expensive lifestyle. But now that we've been really consistent about the money and the process, she doesn't fight me on the amount. She doesn't tell me, how dare you? This isn't enough. Like, she gets it now. But it's been really cool to see the evolution. And part of that is just getting her to be really cognizant all the time of how much she has to spend and how much things cost and that cadence of the way that the money comes and goes. She's got a good understanding now of budgeting and timing and flow and what she can and can't afford and what she does and doesn't value. And so every month she has to weigh out, I want this, this, and this. I only have this much money. What is the most valuable to me at this time? And one month it might be nails.
Dare I say, Julie, that she has learned the value of $1?
That is exactly what has happened, Alec. That is precisely what has happened.
An amazing transformation, because really, when you started, this was definitely a child who was like water through a sieve, right? With money just through her fingers.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Even this morning, she said, "Can you give me $5? I want to buy something from someone at school that's starting a business." She says, "Mom, I want to support this young person's business and entrepreneurship." And I said, "That is great. You can do that with your money. You have that $5." And then John pipes in, "But mom, can't you just spot her? Can't you just loan her $5? It's to support somebody." They're both on me now. And I said, "And you also can take that money out of your bucket. No, this is this is not
Right.
my expense." So it was cute, it was a nice effort, A for effort. But as soon as I
Yeah.
said, "No, you can spend your money," like conversation was over.
Amazing. So did they?
Yeah. No. No, 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 no. They
Greedy little
were
beggars?
yeah, yeah, exactly. No, I mean, but that's just, it's really amazing with both of them, actually. As John is not quite as astute with his money as Cassidy is, but the conversations with both of them are very different now than they used to be. Example, last night we went to the store at like 9 p.m. They really wanted ice cream. I was feeling like being a nice mom. And so I said, "Okay, we can go to ice cream. These are the three things we're getting." So we cleared it before we went in the store. We're getting toothpaste, I'm getting coffee, and you're getting ice cream. That's it. So we go in, and then John starts going, "Well, can I get some Sour Patch Kids for the movie tomorrow? And can I get a bag of chips and this and that?" And I was like, "Sure, you can. Hope you brought your debit card." And I just walk away. There's no fight about that anymore. Or if he says, "But why? Why can't you buy it?" It's a very simple answer. That is a want. That is not a need. That is not what we came for. And a year ago, it would have been a very, very different conversation of him following me around Ralph's, telling me all the reasons he
Right.
needed this, that, and the other thing. So I think they've both really evolved. I mean, we started out talking about Cassidy because she is such a big spender, and it's
Yeah.
really, really different now than it used to be. She definitely does not spend money at Starbucks anymore.
She's just gotten over that
Maybe,
habit.
maybe once a month she gets a drink, but she knows she doesn't ask me for the money. If she wants it, she buys it.
That's
And
amazing.
it's a game changer in a parental relationship because you are no longer the gatekeeper, or in a negative way. I'm the gatekeeper with allowance, but it's predictable, it's strategic, it's consistent. I'm not the gatekeeper in that like minute to minute, I need, that looks cool, can I have? No. There's yes and no, and there's a reason behind each one, and it's not personal. We don't need to fight about it.
I love it. I'm so happy to hear it. That is fantastic.
I mean, let's be honest, it's not like we're not like walking on clouds every day. It's not like
Yeah, they're not perfect.
rainbows and
Totally.
unicorns. I mean, there are the
Totally.
moments where there's a little pushback, but it's like a normal amount. It's not what it used to be.
It's conversation and not fighting.
Right, right. It's
Yeah, that is a
conversation.
total game changer. That's the part that yes, I'm thrilled to hear. And you also know parental game changer that they're on this platform. They're now at this point, and Lord knows where they're going to be in another year and another year and another year as all of this continues. Right? They are on their way to be money savvy adults. That's the goal, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Another funny thing about John, we've been talking about some investments with you, and you've spurred some conversation with him about that. And he's more interested in, investments and donations than spending money, where Cassidy is very into spending and the more like immediate needs. And we had a Christmas party the other night, and a friend of John's parents were here, and they said, "Well, we heard that over Mexican food the other day, you guys were talking about, investments and where his investments were." And like, just to hear that two 14-year-old boys were talking about wise investments and where their money was going, over Mexican food was just, they thought it was the coolest thing. I think I looked like a really cool parent, to them, that's what we were talking
Yep.
about. But what a fun thing just to get the conversation going. I mean, we were talking about sustainability credits and how companies can offset their carbon emissions, and why that might be a good investment or not. And, it was really
Amazing.
getting
You know
some
what,
cool
Julie?
conversation.
This same exact thing happened to me 2 weeks ago. Literally the exact same thing with Grace. So also, 14 years old, and she's in the back seat with one of her closest friends. And her friend says, "Oh, well, we skipped our money Sunday
this month. And so I have to get home because I know we're doing it today. And my ears, of course, perked up, and I look in the back seat as I'm driving. I'm like, really? I'm like, oh, tell me about that. And so she goes into it a little bit, and then the conversation changes, and she and Grace are just going back and forth. It's like, well, yeah, well, my investment bucket, I do this and da, da, da. And then now they're talking stocks. She's like, well, I own this and I own this, and this is why. And Grace says, I really like the companies that are just more conservative. I like to buy companies that make this stuff around the house. My sister, she likes those high flying tech things. They go up, they go down. My stuff's much more steady Eddie. And then she pauses and she says, and now my TED Talk is over.
I can see her saying that. That's hilarious. And maybe she will be, the youngest girl talking about investments on TED. That would be amazing.
That would be. We might have to work on that as our next project. But I was so, like you, I was so happy to hear them just conversing about stocks, about investments at 14 years old. It was like, wow, this is continually, I get reminded that this is the right path.
Yep. It's a great conversation and great follow up now, and fun to look back with the parents and talk about it. I don't know, the whole experience for us was really fun. They're both evolving in their own ways. It's a fun process to watch. And I'm learning too. I mean, I'm not, me, I'm not super money savvy myself, and I'm learning right along with them. And it's giving us a good reason to watch those stocks and check our statements and, have conversations around money, which I didn't really do growing up. My parents had their own money conversations, but I wasn't really included in it. So it's kind of taking a different angle in that, like, parenting meets money world for me.
Yep, absolutely.
I'm learning. Yeah. So you've been talking a lot about cash lately. Can we talk a little bit about cash? Some of your recent emails that you've been sending is kind of getting in there. So is cash still king? And what do you think is going on right now with that?
A couple months ago, I guess at the time where this airs, I sent an email out saying, is cash dead? Is cash king? Or maybe somewhere in the middle, maybe cash is a zombie. And the whole point was that cash is such an important part of teaching kids the value of a dollar. I mean, I've said this sort of ad nauseum, whether it's in the elementary starter course or in emails or wherever it is that the very definition of somebody valuing a dollar is taking a dollar and trading it for something that they value, right? That's valuing a dollar in action. If it was a verb, that's what the verb would be. If you compare that experience to when I was at a pizza dinner, my family and I, we all went out to Lincoln Road here in Miami Beach, and we were all sitting around and we went out for pizza, and the bill comes and I noticed that there's a QR code right there and it says that I could pay with Apple Pay. And I was like, oh, this is neat. So I take out my phone and I open the camera app, and boop, I just touch the little thing. I double click the side button. It does the Face ID, how much tip, boop, boop, done. In like 30 seconds, the bill was paid. Then I continued the conversation. I didn't miss a beat in the conversation. And like 3 or 4 minutes later, I was like, all right, let's go. And Eve looked at me and she said, wait, you already paid the bill? And I was like, yeah. She's like, well, how'd you do that? I said, I did it on Apple Pay. You didn't see? She's like, no. So we start to walk away, and I was like, wow, that is literally the opposite of valuing a dollar. There was no conversation. There was no nothing. It was instant. It definitely was convenient, but it defeated the purpose of teaching anything about money. That's for sure. Because as I thought about it, what happens when the bill normally comes? The bill comes, I figure out the tip, I scratch out what I got wrong, I refigure the tip, the girls ask me questions. I Price is Right sometimes. I say, okay, who wants to guess what the bill was? Who gets the closest without going over? We play these games, we talk about it. They might ask a question about a credit card. There's all this conversation that potentially could happen. Literally none of that happened. So that's not necessarily a difference between cash and Apple Pay. Like, I wouldn't have paid for pizza with cash for all of us sitting there, but even a credit card at a restaurant, it slows down the process to where you think about things more. So, I've just been talking a lot about how this instantaneous process versus the slowest process of cash, it's convenient, but it's not necessarily a great thing for our kids.
Totally. Yep. I agree. We talk about the bill. I love that Price is Right idea. That's really fun. We talk about the bill because the kids are more interested now in what things cost, so they do want to know. And I love that because then they can start valuing also the restaurants we go to. This pizza place is twice as expensive as that pizza place, but we like it more. But it's a treat, and so you can kind of start weighing that out. We went to a burger place the other night, and the kids were asking, well, how much was this? Because it was kind of like In-N-Out, only it was like really a lot fancier. Everything was elevated, and it was a certain type of beef, and it was fresh fish. And so we do also have those conversations about why we're paying this much money for this meal. But yeah, I can totally see how even just pulling that, that act of pulling the credit card out of the purse, putting it into the billfold, sending it away, or even if they're swiping it right there's that pause and that like moment of recognition that you are paying for something.
Yeah, there was literally nothing. And I was like, wow, what has been lost in that opportunity to teach? Because we talk a lot about this. It's about practice. It's about conversation. You don't have to be Warren Buffett to play The Price is Right and have them understand the difference in In-N-Out Burger versus the stepped up burger joint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think, I deal a lot with people in takeout, and that's a thing too, is like we get so numb to paying for takeout when it's on that delivery app. It's like you scroll, you choose, you click, and then you could ask people, how much do you spend on takeout every night? And they're like, I don't know. But then you could say, well, how much do you spend at the grocery store? Well, they know how much they spend at the grocery store, and it seems like a lot, right? You pay $200 or $300. You have a grocery cart full of groceries, but you have to look at the amount, look at what you have. Did I charge everything right? You do the card. And so if you were weighing out how much you're spending in takeout versus how much you're spending on groceries, obviously takeout's so much more expensive, but you don't think about it. It's click, done, bye. Here comes the food.
Exactly. Yeah. I had an interesting conversation with Eve, again, who's now 12, about the Starbucks app. So she goes to this party, and as part of the giveaway or a prize that she won at the party or something like that, I forget the exact circumstance, but she wound up coming home with 2 gift cards, one to Amazon and one to Starbucks. And I think they were both $20. And so she was automatically under the assumption, I don't know why, that I would just give her $20 for each of them. And I said, no, I'm sorry, I have no interest in those. And she said, well, why? You spend money at those places. I said, yes, that's true. I said, I'll tell you what. I said, we're going to go onto this website. It's a gift card exchange or a gift card marketplace website. It's called raise.com. I said, I will pay you the going rate for Amazon because there is something I need to buy on Amazon. And to me, it's not that big of a difference. But you know what? Your $20 gift card is not worth $20 to me. I will pay you what's called the fair market value, basic economic principle, fair market value. Well, let's find out what that fair market value is on raise.com. Turns out it was like, $19 and change. So it was very little difference, but still a good learning opportunity. So I gave her the money for that. I saved a couple of pennies. She learned a good lesson. I got my thing. But the Starbucks one, I was like, no, I don't go to Starbucks that often, and I have no interest in your gift card. And she said, well, why? And I said, I just told you. I said, let me ask you a question. Do you want the cash or do you want the card? She said, I want the cash. I said, me too. So I said, I'll tell you what, I will let you download. You don't have the Starbucks app. You could download the Starbucks app. I will walk you through, how to add the gift card, and it'll be on there and you can use it when you want. And she said, okay. I was like, great. When we get home, we'll do that. We got a little distracted, and so it didn't happen. 2 days go by, and out of the blue, she says, Daddy, I've been thinking about it. I don't want the Starbucks app anymore. I said, oh, how come? She said, well, what I noticed now that I have the debit card, here now for a couple of weeks is when I don't have the cash, the spending happens faster. I don't really notice it. I just don't feel it as much. And I feel like if I had the app, I would spend it a lot more quickly. I think it's better for me just to have the gift card and just get used to that and then not have the app on my phone. And I was like, yes, this is what I've been emailing everybody about. You want the pain. You want them to experience the pain when they're in the store and giving the cash and waiting for the change and counting it. You want them to value that dollar, value the pennies and the quarters and the nickels and all of that stuff and stuff it into their pocket. And she totally got it, not even on an elementary level, on an adult level, by saying, don't give me the app. I will spend too quickly.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. You mentioned something also, Alec, that I have to say too about the quarters and the pennies and all of that. I think that that is such a benefit of starting kids early, like when you did, or when you look at my nephew William, and he's 7, and his amount of allowance is so small that they really do get really nitty gritty with the pennies, all the coins. And when you wait a little bit longer, like I did to start my kids more around that middle school age, they're looking at the dollars. They're not as focused on the coins. And quite often they'll come home and they'll take their coins out and just put them on the counter and take the bills. Like they don't value the coins because they're little. So we have a jar in our kitchen where we keep all the coins. So every time they drop their coins, I sweep them up, I throw them in the family money jar, and then we all go together to Ralph's and we dump them in the machine and we see, how much money it is, and we use it towards dinner or something fun. It usually comes out to like amazing. $70, $80 or $90. But I'm like, guys, look, the coins do add up, Of course, they always want me to have coins when we're like around a vending machine or something, like gumball machine or whatever. But other than that, they don't really value them. So I think
that's a way to teach them the value of that, to gather it all into a family dinner. That's amazing.
Yeah, we do it like every 2 months or something. We can generate about $75. I mean, I throw dollar bills in there too, and then when we need a dollar bill for here or there, it's for them to see that like all the little things that come and go, or that you forget in your pocket and goes through the laundry, goes in the jar. So they're learning the value of coins in a different way, and I hope that they keep that practice as they go off into the world where they don't just drop their pennies mindlessly, that they keep them and use them. But I love kind of looking at this like debit card idea and this progression of kids of wherever their evolution is taking them. And so no matter where you start, there's certain things that you're teaching, but I never want those parts to be completely lost just because we didn't start as early as you did,
Yeah, totally. And just going back to that cash, I know we were talking, now I can't remember if it was in this conversation or a previous podcast or whenever it was, or just another conversation, but you said there was this one time where John was at In-N-Out Burger and his debit card ran empty and he had no other solution. Again, I go back to the cash is king. I have drilled it into my girls. You always have $20. Have some cash in you. You have that emergency reserve. Take the $20, put it in the back of your cell phone so it's in between your case and the phone itself, because you never know. You're going to walk into a store and when we walk into a store and it says cash only, I point that out. Even if we're not buying anything, I just point that out to them. See, cash only. Likewise, I've been in stores where it said no cash accepted, electronic payment only, and I point out the sign and I say, look guys, see this. So cash is this zombie. It's super important. It's not dead. It's definitely somewhere in the middle. I remember one of my emails, I said it might not be king anymore, but it's definitely still royalty. At the same time, you need to train them to use the debit card. Just last night, one of my close friends who attended the full elementary starter course in person in Miami a couple of years back, he's been doing this with his kids now for like 2.5 years. He had his 12-year-old on the phone with him, and she was saying, I want a debit card. And he said, I think that's silly. I don't want her to have one. And I just had to talk him down and say, listen, Jason, this is the right time. They need to transition. This is how you do it. I say, but the way that I do it when I'm doling out allowance, when it's that core day and we're sitting down, I still give them cash. I just add the debit card to the process. I say, okay, now that you have the cash, how much goes in your wallet? If this is your spend category, how much goes in your wallet and how much do you want to give me that I can add to your debit card right now? It would be better if we could, go to a bank and deposit it and, really old school, but I'm not going to put them through that. So if it's $20 they want added, they give me $20. I go on my phone and I transfer it so they have it right away. we introduce it to the cash process. We don't replace the cash process.
Here's a question for you, which maybe other parents deal with too. Cassidy wants nothing to do with cash ever. So every time she gets money, she'll, grandma will send her a $5 bill or something, and she just immediately hands it to me and she says, put it in my card. And I mean, I like the cash because I never have cash. And so it's like a bonus to me.
I know how much you hate the ATM.
I know. I hate the ATM. I get it. She wants the card. And so I do want to teach her to always have cash and to stick it, in that emergency fund. I guess I just really struggle with how to get her to actually do it because I know both of my kids will spend that emergency fund the second they have something in front of them that they want. It's hard for me to teach that level. So if you have any suggestions, I mean, maybe making a reward for that, almost like, hey, if you still have, this $10 bill by next month, I'll add $1 to it. Or I don't know. It's kind of like that interest idea or something to get them to keep it for emergencies.
Yeah. So two things. One, I would say, look, guys, it's mandatory. You must have an emergency fund. That's period. It is part of the process. Oh, you don't like that? Okay, then you're not getting allowance this month, right? This is part of the process. And I had them start at 20 and then I had them raise it to 50. It took a little while for them to get there and I gave them a couple months. I said, but this is where it needs to be. And they've definitely used it. So I think that one, if you make it mandatory, and then two, when they see the value in it, when they need it, they'll say, oh, I'm so glad I had that. Once they use it and need it and then kind of get a taste of why it's good, it'll make it easier for the next time.
For example, this morning when they each wanted me to donate $5 to this kid's business, neither of them had $5. And they were like, what, Mom? You don't have $5 cash? I said, well, I may or may not in my wallet. That's none of your business. This is not my expense. At first I said, I don't have $5. And then I thought, well, that's not a good example either. I should probably have $5 in my wallet. So then I said, well, that's really none of your business. I may or may not. It's just, this isn't
good
something
recovery.
I want.
Yeah.
I did. Yes. I did have it. I did have $5 in my wallet.
Okay, good. So I think, making it mandatory and just say, look, guys, this is part of the process is important. And then helping them utilize it when the time comes. I don't know that the $5 donation, would fit the kind of emergency bill. It doesn't necessarily have to be an emergency, but it has to be some extenuating circumstance,
right.
That there really was something that they needed and they're like, oh, okay. Or something that they really wanted and it would put them in a $5 debt. And they're like, oh, it's a good thing I had that extra 20. And they know that they're now borrowing from themselves instead of having to come and have that borrowing conversation with you. I think the emergency reserve and, establishing that in middle school is really like the perfect time to do that. And then secondarily, I would say whether it's part of the emergency reserve or not, I think that the $20 bill in the phone case at all times as a goal is a good practice to have because like John in that situation in an Burger, he was short the $5. Or if they're somewhere and they need whatever, they need to hop on a bus, they need to take, I guess do they have taxis anymore? I don't even know. But there are instances where my kids have used it or a friend of theirs needed to borrow money and they had it. I mean, there's just been a host of different cases where they've used it. And one of the things that happened actually that I was really able to drive home that particular lesson was I did one of these races, an obstacle race with Eve, and I think she was 10 at the time. And we went out as this big mud run. It was a whole thing. And we drove out, it was like an hour drive to get to the like middle of nowhere, Miami kind of a thing. And my debit card fell out of my pocket and I had left my phone in the car because we were going to be in mud. So we were thirsty and we went through this whole thing and it was like the blazing sun of Miami. Well, it's a good thing that I had $20 in my pocket and we were able to buy drinks and we were, if I needed to, pay for a cab or borrow a phone to call somebody, I could do that. But at least I had $20 in my pocket and she saw the value in that. So that was a good lesson, inadvertently taught, but they got it.
Yep. Well, I'm going to work on that. Next time we talk, you can follow up with me and ask me how that's going. That's my next challenge. Every month I have something to work on after we talk and I open my mind to new horizons. This is a process that never stops, right? I mean, we just keep learning and layering more and more. And that's the awesome thing about it. You learn it, you take the course, you get all the steps, or you do the challenge, or however it is that you get started. But years from now, I think we're all still going to be like layering on more and more learning and getting our kids really actually money savvy, not just like understanding the value of a dollar, but actually towards that money savvy path.
Look, and that's the idea, right? Again, no Warren Buffett here. This is just about ways to practice, to be smart, to be money savvy, right? Just practice.
To have conversations. Yeah. And just to talk about it.
Absolutely. So the Elementary Starter, that's the course that's up there now. We talk a lot about this stuff and more. Invite everybody to check it out. senseofresponsibility.com/resources. You can find links to all of that good stuff. And of course, wherever you're listening now, make sure you hit that subscribe button because that's always helpful, and send us some feedback. Like some good feedback.
Yes. And we want to hear about your challenges, your questions, your big wins, things that were unexpected in this process for you. We love hearing about those. We love talking about them. So yeah, share all of it.
Exactly. And in the meantime, everybody, what am I going to say, Julie?
Teach sensibly.
That's right. Teach sensibly.
Bye, everyone.